Good afternoon. I'm Huey Poplock, and I'm in front of the Central Florida Computer Society in Orlando, or they're actually meeting in Castleberry in the library. And I'm also have about 10 people online, and I'm going to talk about cutting the cord, or some things to consider before firing your cable company. This presentation is very fluid in information. So what I may tell you today may have gone out of date yesterday. It may go out of date tomorrow, but at least you get the gist of it, and hopefully you'll learn from it and have a better understanding of what is involved, and then you can do some more research on it. So let's get started. So let's tell you what's going to happen at the end. At the end, I want everyone to take a survey. Now, you don't have to take it if you're in the audience or in Castleberry. You can wait till you get home, but I would like you to write this address down. When I go to the next slide, you will not see it again until the end of the presentation, but it will be, and it will be again shown on the screen at the end in the final where it says questions. I'll have it again. I'm talking now to make sure you're getting time in order to write it down. Please go and do that survey. It really helped me make changes for this one. If you don't understand something, if something needs to be talked about a little bit clearer, or something else needs to be talked about a little more in extension, please fill out the survey and tell me about it. It's going to help the next presentation I do on the topic. If you're doing this from the recording, or if you're doing this from online, also, I would like you to fill out this survey, and please do so. Thank you so much. Now, there's a couple of terms that probably the top one I'll use more than I will the bottom one, although there are terms that are used when we're talking about cutting the cord quite a bit, and that's the OTA and the OTT. OTA is over-the-air TV. That's the TV before we had cable. You know, where you stick an antenna up or your rabbit ears and you watch local TV. OTT is over the top, where you're doing something and bringing it in through the internet. So some of the topics we're going to cover my reason for cutting the cord. We're going to talk a little bit about the OTA, or over the air. We talk about antenna web. We're going to talk about different antennae. That's the plural for antenna. And we're going to talk about DVRs for OTA. And then over the top, we're going to talk about, which is over the internet, we're going to talk about TV streaming, hardware for streaming, streaming services, streaming channels, local TV, other ways to get TV, some broadband providers, and some telephone through the internet, or VoIP. And then a short list of some of the resources I used for putting this together. There's a lot of resources out there. And there's newspaper articles on a daily, almost a daily basis on a lot of this. Okay, here's an early TV with a remote. That's me in front of our first TV. And our TV was a 19-inch Majestic TV. And when I showed this to Robin and said, "Oh, see, look at the picture I found in front of our TV," she said, "Well, look what I got." And so here's Robin's 4 TV remotes in front of their TV a couple of years later. She's a little bit younger than I am, but probably within a couple of years of when that picture was taken. So, and their family, they had 4 remotes at that time. They eventually had 8 remotes. Here's some examples of TV program when we got our first TV. The TV station in Utica, New York is where I was from. Signed on the air at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, went off the air at midnight, and then you had a what was called a test pattern the rest of the time. And you'll see the programs that were on and who was the sponsor of that program. And I had a whole set of these, and I sold them, but I did keep one, or I kept the weekly one copy of the weekly one, and one copy of the monthly one. Okay, so between 2017 2012 and 2017, traditional TV viewing by 18 to 24-year-olds dropped by almost 10 hours a week, or roughly 1 hour and 25 minutes a day. For the percentage terms, that's between 18 and 24-year-olds was down by a huge 15.7% year over year, and has now fallen 43.6% since 2012. Because you have to remember that that's a lot of the age group that TV is really gearing for, is at 18 to 24, because of the money that they have to spend. In other words, in the space of 5 years, close to half of this age group's traditional TV viewing time has migrated either to other activities or to streaming. And this is an important number to think about. According to Nielsen, the ratings people, on average, Americans have 189 cable TV channels and only watch 17 of them. That's amazing. And it's true. If you think about it, you only watch a handful of the stations you have available. Every once in a while, you may stop at one and kind of look at it, or a particular program catches your eye. But for the most part, you're only watching 17 channels. Okay, here's why I began to look at cutting the cord. And then we're going to talk about what cutting the cord is. But here's why I started looking at. I got this bill. And to look at it up close, in the month of February, my bill was $165, and in March it was going to be $215. I said, that's ridiculous. So as Stan knows, you can call and say, hey, I'm leaving the service. And at the time I was using Spectrum, the old Bright House, over here in I'm in Bradenton, but it's that same service is available in Orlando. But it's typical of the cable companies. If you threaten to leave and say you're going to, they then put you together with somebody who can make some offers for you. If you just say, I'm thinking about leaving, or I don't like the prices, they're not going to give that suggestion. So you really got to be emphatic about it. But if you are, they'll make a suggestion. And this was the letter I got. And they also told me over the phone. Hang on, I got to put a cough drop in my mouth here and maybe clear my throat. But this was the letter I got. And then up close, this is what it said. That my bill would be approximately $176, not the $215, but plus applicable taxes and fees. It was still going to be about $192, which is up almost, what, $15, $20, $25 more than I was paying. And I said, no, this has got to stop. I got to find a way to save some money, or just cut out some of what they service me with. So I started looking. I ended up changing from Spectrum to Frontier and went to just their internet only, with a special for 1 year at $40. That includes the router. And then after looking, I ended up with DirecTV Now, and that runs me, you can see here, $43 a month. So it's costing me, instead of $192, it's costing me about $83 for watching TV. I don't get all of what I had. I missed some programs, but I'm going to explain what and how I made the decisions and some of the things that are available and so on as we go along today. So I cut the cord. Okay, TV today. This is a kind of an explanation for those who are new to all of this. Okay, TV today, if you have cable, you're using something like AT&T UVerse, Verizon Fios. In this area, Verizon sold it to Frontier, so it's Frontier Fios. Charter, which is also Spectrum, which is on there, and Cox TV. You have some kind of a cable company, and they provide either a cable modem and router for your internet and a cable box for your TV, and from there it goes to your TV. If you have satellite, you have some kind of a dish from either DirecTV or Dish, maybe another one. I don't think there's any other out there, but there might be. And then they provide you with the dish and a channel box, and you connect that to your TV. OTA, or over the air, is you have your channels, your local channels. In this case, it's channel 8 and 13 out of Tampa. You have an indoor or an outdoor antenna, which is also connected to your TV. That's what TV has been for the last several years, until very recently. Now, in order to stream, you need some things. You still need an internet service provider, and that's going to be AT&T Uverse, Verizon or Frontier Fios, Cox, Spectrum, whoever it be. And then you need some kind of device that's going to be connected to that internet. Most of them connect by Wi-Fi, some by Bluetooth, and some by direct wiring. Some you have a choice. They may have more than one plug. What you see here is this is an Amazon Fire TV. This is an Apple TV with its remote. Amazon has a remote as well. The Roku, and that's a little box. It comes like that. And some of these have other iterations. The Amazon Fire has a stick. Roku has a stick. This is the Chromecast. This is a PlayStation, an Xbox, or you might have a smart TV. This happens to be a Roku TV. You might have, there's lots of different brands of smart TVs where the streaming of ability is already in the TV.
Huey?
Yes.
I just realized we didn't mute. We're in the small room, so is this working okay? Is there feedback?
No, not at all.
Great. So the question I just came up with is that Frontier that you switched to, is that local to where you are, or would that be statewide to get just the internet? And what speed did you get for $40 a month?
I got the Fios, which means it's the fiber optics, and luckily my community is wired for it. Not all areas are wired for fiber optics. Frontier still would give them internet, but it wouldn't be as fast or as much. But for the $40 a month, I get 150 down and 150 up, and it's pretty consistent. That's what I get.
I've never heard of Frontier before. Am I going to be able to get them here in Orlando?
I have no idea. And one neighborhood may have them, and another neighborhood may not. The same thing with AT&T Uverse. There are some neighborhoods that get it and some that don't. So you're going to have to everyone is listening to this presentation may have a different provider or a different list of providers for internet in their area. You're going to have to find out what they have available. That's a good question.
It does exist in Tiberias, just so you know. Frontier exists in Tiberias.
Well,
What did he say?
Just reported that no, it does not exist in Orlando. Okay.
Stan, I didn't hear what was just said. I think it was Dick. What was it?
Yeah, Tiberias has Frontier.
Right. It'll vary on price, and it'll vary on what ability you have.
Tiberias.
Tiberias.
Oh, DeBerry. Okay.
Lake County.
Okay.
Sorry.
So there's different content available for streaming as well. These are some of the content providers that you can get streaming, and you subscribe to them, and they have various pricing as well and various levels. So it gets quite involved. Fubo TV, Philo, DirecTV now from AT&T. Now notice that's DirecTV now. That's not their satellite. That is streaming service. Sling Television or Sling TV, Hulu, YouTube TV, Watch TV from AT&T, and there are others. Now, I didn't include Netflix in this group because Netflix is more of a movie and recording only, where all of these services give you what you're used to, where you can turn on TV and watch what's being broadcast right now. and I'm going to talk more about that. But all of those subscription services are not available on all of these devices. Some are available on one, some are on another. All of them may be on one, but not on another, and it gets really confusing. And so you have to kind of figure out what you want, and then which device is going to be able. You have to decide which is more important. What's going to come first, the chicken or the egg? Do you want to? If you have the device, then you got to find a service that feeds that device. If you want a certain service, then you have to make sure you get a device that's going to use it. Now, each of the streaming services have plans that have some of your favorite channels. If you're like me and Robin has some that she likes, I have some that I like, and not all of the plans have both. So you have to figure out, you have to make a list of what your priorities and channels are going to be before you decide on which service you're going to use. If it's like with Robin, she says that she could do without the Hallmark and the Hallmark movie and mystery channels, but I know that to keep her happy, she's got to have those. So I got to make sure that whatever service I get, those are available. I like my live PD, my 6 hours of weekend watching. I like that, and that's on the A&E channel. So I need the A&E channel. There's a couple other programs that, you know, if I get them, fine, but and I'm not talking about the network, the regular networks, and we're going to talk about that separately. But I want to make sure that I can get those programs, so I had to find a service that had them. Could we do without them? Could we buy another service and get them just by themselves, possibly? So there's a lot of ways around it, but you've got to come up with the priorities that you need in order to make some decisions. I got a lot of my help from this website. It's called cordcutternews.com. And this is a website and a Facebook channel that I highly recommend that you, they've got a beginner's guide to cord cutting. They got all kinds of news. And as things change, they've got articles about them as well. Very well written and really give both sides of the story. Okay, let's talk about over the air. I happen to be 50 miles from Tampa, at least from the towers, and I'm about 20 miles or less from the one tower that's a TV tower that's in Sarasota, the one channel. So I've got to figure out whether I can pick up channels and what I need. This is a good website, Antenna Web. You just put in your zip code or your full address, and then under the antenna height, you might want to check the antenna will be installed more than 30 foot above the ground, or just leave it blank. And you hit submit. Once you hit submit, you get a page that looks like this. And the one on the left, and then I've made it bigger, the channels over on the right. So it shows you, and let's zoom in a little bit more on that, and that's what it looks like. So it tells me from Bradenton how far it's going to be, and gives me some information on what I need in order to reach those using an over-the-air antenna. Now, an over-the-air antenna can be one that you put in the window, can be one that you put in your attic, or one that you have outside that you put either on the roof or towards the roof. So there's different ones that you can get, and of course there's different pricing, different wiring, and so on. Here's an example of some over-the-air antennas. The ones on the left are indoor antennas, and the ones on the one in the middle and on the right are either outdoor or attic antennas. You could have it in your living room, but certainly is not or it probably won't do much better than one of the others anyway. You need the height, and you need it outside, or at least up in the attic. Here's one of my neighbor's homes, and it really, unless you were looking for it, you might not figure it. So I made a picture of what the antenna looked like. This is the antenna that he uses. That's the only TV he has is using this. He has no internet access. He uses his phone. He and his wife use their phones for internet access and Facebook and that sort of thing, emails, and checking on things that way. And then for TV, they use this antenna. They're getting about 65 channels. But bear in mind, a lot of those are foreign language or religious channels that you may or may not have any interest in. So out of the 65, I don't know how many they actually watch. Now, they do have 2 TVs. With one antenna, what you have to do is run the wire from the outside into the house, and then somewhere have a splitter that goes to both TVs, so you got to have the wire running to each of the TVs. So if they're in different rooms, you're going to have wires either in the wall or drop down from the ceiling or along your baseboard or your ceiling or whatever. But you're going to need it wired to each of your TVs. So that's to bear in mind if you're doing over the air. Now, if you're doing over the air, there is such a thing as a DVR or a digital video recorder that you can purchase to record those channels and then watch them on your own time like you do with any DVR or digital video recorder. Here's a couple of them. Here's a brand new one. It just was released. Actually, this is not the ad for the latest one, but it looks just like this, and it's the same brand. The TiVo has come out with an over-the-air DVR. This is just a regular DVR.
You're saying over the air, they will also work with streaming, won't they?
The TiVo does, yes. The others do not, as far as I know. The Tablo, you use it with an HD TV antenna, Here are some other brands and some comparisons. So the Tablo is about $150. And there's some that are a little cheaper. And then Amazon is coming out with one for $279, a little bit more expensive, quite a bit more expensive. There's a 2-tuner one for $229 and a 4-tuner one for $279. But you'll notice it says right here, this item will be released November 14th, 2018. It's not even out yet. But it's for to record live TV everywhere. So it's for over the air. Now, I was reading an article about this. Don't consider the 2-tuner one, because one of those tuners is going to be your channel selector. So you're only going to be able to do it with for one TV and one program. If you use the 2-tuners, where you'll be able to get more stations if you get the 4-tuner. So it is a better deal if you get the 4-tuner one plus the hard drive. It's going to save 150 hours as opposed, in other words, twice as much information is going to be held in it. Okay, services. Here's a picture of what a lot of them are, and here's their logos, and here's the problems. Frequently, I mean, every 5-10 minutes, we'll get a black screen like the one on the top left. Every once in a while, we get one of the other ones. We're saying it's taking longer than expected to load your video. Your patience is most appreciated when you're changing channels. Or we're having trouble displaying this channel. Check back later. So if you're used to having your cable TV in it working most of the time, I know it doesn't work all the time. That's one of the big problems with it. But it works a lot better than these do, because this whole technology is in its infancy. So if that stuff kind of bothers you, this is not something you want to consider yet. It's not ready. and you and there's some other issues as well. So if you're the kind that just wants to change channels and watch a TV program, cutting the cord is not going to be for you. We chose the DirecTV Now. Now, most of the services that are out there, in fact, all of them, usually have a 7-day free period. What I did is I decided, okay, which ones have the channels, and I'll show you some of the charts that I used to kind of decide which ones I wanted to consider, and then go ahead and do them. And I chose the least likely to be the first one, so I could kind of get used to and be on there the longest, but I knew that I would cut them out and I'd still be able to see the others. So I went down the line and I looked at, I think, 4 or 5 of them, and took up to 7 days, but not 7 days. But you have to remember, within that 7 days, you've got to cancel it as well, or they start charging you. But you get it for free and you can test it. You can do that using your current TV, your current internet provider, without changing and doing all the things of cutting the cord, just to see what it's like. And it doesn't cost you anything. So you might want to try DirecTV Now or YouTube TV on your current internet provider's system, if you have the hardware to be able to do it. And you've got to have the hardware in order to make it work. So anyway, we ended up with DirecTV Now. When we signed up for it just a couple of months ago, it was $35 a month. They've raised it $5 a month to $40. And I heard one of the newscasts saying that talks about a lot of the cutting the cord. One of them saying that apparently there's not been enough people upset about the $5 increase, so now they're thinking about another increase. So it'll probably go to 45. That's for 65 channels plus, and they have more expensive plans as well. And I'm going to talk about that in a few slides. Okay, here are some of the streaming services and comparing them. And this comparison really doesn't, there might be some things here that concern you, but the biggest one is the maximum simultaneous streams. Like Sling TV, you can have 4 TVs going at once, or 3 TVs and be watching it on your phone, or be watching it on your iPad. DirecTV Now, you'll look, only has 2. We have 2 TVs, so if we're watching it on both TVs, we can't have our phone on a channel as well. And if you've got 3 people in your home, or you got 3 TVs, DirecTV Now is probably not the one for you, although I did see something in the last week that they may be increasing that to 4, or they may already have. So these things are changing on a regular basis too. So you've got to keep up with it if you decide to go this direction, or if you're thinking about going in this direction, you've got to keep up with the information to make sure that what you're doing is the correct thing for you. Local TV stations are now a part of all of the streaming services, but it's different in every municipality in every area. This chart is goes back to August, and I've not seen it updated, and I went back and checked. It actually came from CNET. It's a spreadsheet, and so I made it larger, and I took just a certain couple of areas, and then I made it even larger. So let's take a look at this. Let's look at the Orlando area, which is not number 9. DirecTV Now doesn't have a CBS station on. So if the CBS station is important to you, you're not going to get it. This was in August. It may have changed because in Tampa, St. Pete, it says their CBS station was there. But when I first signed up for this, and this was in May, I think, I was getting 3 ABC stations: Orlando, Tampa, and Sarasota. I was getting 2 CBS, Tampa and Orlando, 2 Fox, Tampa and Orlando, NBC only out of Orlando. Then they cut out all the Orlando stations, so I didn't have an NBC affiliate. And now I see it's back. We're getting the Orlando. I'm sorry, the Tampa NBC station is now on there. So they apparently have agreements with some of these stations, and it comes and goes. And if you're in Rochester, New York, or if you go back and forth to Rochester, if you'll see under DirecTV now, you only get Fox. You don't get any of the other networks. Again, that's in August. That may have changed by now. But these are things that you have to consider depending upon the area you're in. Or if you're a snowbird and you go back and forth between two areas, if you're in Arizona part of the year and in North Dakota the rest, or if you're in Florida part of the year and then up in the Northeast or the Midwest part of the year, you need to look at the different areas to make sure that you can go back and forth, or you can cancel one in one area and then pick and choose a different one in the other area. So there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. There's no contracts in any of these, so you can come and go with them as well. And here's just another chart with the starting prices of some of these, but like Hulu for $7.99 a month, but I think that's just for some movies. But if you want the TV streaming and so on, it's not really comparing them apples to apples. So this really isn't a good slide for that. Now, Spectrum just came out with something they call Spectrum TV Choice. So those of you in the Orlando area where Spectrum is one of your choices, or one of your services, you can get their TV, their internet access, or you can get somebody else's internet access and get the Spectrum TV Choice as your streaming service. You don't have to have Spectrum to get Spectrum TV Choice. I could get Spectrum TV Choice, and I'm using Frontier. And it started by offering customers the major broadcast networks, ABC, Fox, and NBC, CW, CBS, and PBS, as well as the rest of the digital broadcast spectrum and public channels like C-SPAN and others. You start with that as a base and then add 10 cable channels of your choice. And that runs about, starts at about $24, but with all the taxes you're paying 30 or 35. So it's going to be a wash whether you're getting a better deal than you are with, let's say, DirecTV Now or something. So again, you've got to look at the channels, what you're getting, and compare to decide which one's going to be better for you. So for additional fees, customers can add other features like DVR and premium TV channels. So you can start adding stuff to some of these services and get it back up there too. So you may not be cutting your costs, and you're dealing with a lot of the same companies, just a different arm of them. Here is a list of the devices and the services and which ones are on which. But again, this is a month or two old. I don't know if any of these have changed or not, but you will see that Apple, if you got an Apple TV, pretty much all of them are available. But if you have a Roku, let's see, Roku, I believe is all of them now as well. But if you've got, if you're going to do this on your iOS, in other words, your iPad, you're not going to be able to get Philo on it. Let's see which one. The Fire Stick, it looks like pretty much all of them. I can't see it, so I'm missing something here. Fire Stick. No, the AT&T Watch TV and YouTube TV aren't available on the Amazon Fire Stick. And the Chromecast doesn't have Philo. So again, if you decide you're going to use one, you've got to have the right piece of equipment that's going to accept it. Whoops. Another confusing but information of comparing one to another, simultaneous streams, and some of these have changed, been updated. Whether you can get a DVR. DirecTV now has a cloud DVR. It's still in beta, but you can use it. It doesn't always work the way you want it to, but you can have up to 20 hours for free, and I believe you can bump it to 50 hours for like $5 a month. And so some of the other ones now have a DVR in the cloud, and some are extra, some aren't, and how long it keeps it, how much storage you'll see in this. It says some are unlimited, some are 50 hours, some are 20 hours. This, again, is information that's fluid and it may not be accurate of what you're seeing there. So don't go by this, but when you decide to go with one, go to their website, and you might be able to find it there. You may have to go searching, and you may have to talk to someone, and you may have to pull it out of them to get the information, because a lot of them don't know. The salespeople don't know, because they only know the things to help push it, not some of the things that you might want to know. Here are a lot of the stations that you can get through these services. ABC, of course, and the CBS, Fox, NBC, and so on. But notice the FX, FXM, Fox News, CNN, CNBC. These may not be available on all of the services or on the tier that you're looking at. So that's something, again, like I mentioned earlier, you've got to decide what you need to have, what you must have, what you need to have, what you want to have, and what you can do without. And here's a lot more stations that you can get. Here's another chart. This gives the various channels and then which of the services that channel gets. And again, I just took one little part of one page. This thing goes, it's huge for the number of channels that are out there, but each of the channels is listed in this particular one. Let's say you're interested in Blaze TV. Well, Sling is the only one you're going to get that on, if that was on your list. If you're interested in Animal Planet, well, you probably don't want Hulu, you don't want Sling because you're not going to get it, and you don't want YouTube TV, so you're stuck with either DirecTV Now, Philo, or Watch TV. So again, you've got to decide what you want and then kind of fit it to which service you're going to use. Here's the Watch TV channel. This is the cheap AT&T service, and this is what they have on their list. So they do have the Hallmark channels, but they don't, and they've got A&E, but they don't have some of the other ones that and I think you choose so many of them, and you may not get all of those. Again, here are the various pieces of equipment that you use to get the services. The Roku, the Chromebox, let's see, I'll point to them. The Roku, the Chromebox, this is what the Roku TV looks like, what a screen looks like, the Xbox, the PS2, some of the different models of the Amazon Fire TV family, and the Apple TV box. Now this is what the Roku looks like on my TV. I have to change the input, HDMI input, to the one that Roku is plugged into. And then it looks similar to this because I don't have all of these channels. I have other channels, and there's a lot of channels that are available for Roku. But this is basically what it looks like. So if you're on, let's say, Hulu, and you want to go to the Amazon channel, or you want to go to Netflix, you actually have to get off of Hulu and go to the other one. And then if you have a Roku TV or any smart TV, this is similar what it's going to look like. You're going to be able to click on an icon that says cable TV, and you get the cable box and all of what it's doing, but then all of the things like on the Roku box are there as well. Okay, I'm looking at the questions. I haven't been looking at the chat box. The Amazon Recast DVR, and that's the one I showed, is out next month. And it says, you got it. It says, where am I finding these charts? Just by reading some of the articles that are out there and searching. If you need any of the charts, I probably can dig back into my Evernote and find where I got them from. And let's see, I'd love a page or email of the live links for the resources and charge. I'll have to try to put one together. Thank you for that, because I did have some people ask about one or two of the charts at the last presentation I did of this as well. So I'll have to do that.
What do you know about Skylink?
Skylink? Not a thing. Never heard of it.
Oh my, they're advertising that big time for people who go to it. In fact, I have a neighbor that has
Where are they advertising? TV?
on TV. Yeah, you can buy the thing and it hooks up, and he got rid of Spectrum, and that's what he uses. And it connects inside. We're not allowed to have any kind of antennas or anything on any of our buildings. So anything we do has to be interior.
I'm going to write that down and do a little research on it. I'm not familiar with it.
Oh yeah, they're advertising it. In fact, the cable companies are furious about it because a lot of people are going to it.
Okay, you've got to be careful. Some of these things are national, international, and they're streaming a lot of channels, but they're streaming out of Europe and out of other countries, and not so much from here. You may not get the same programs that you want. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things, other things that are available, and I'm not sure if they fall into that category or not. Since I don't know, I don't want to really comment too much on what it is, but I will do so. Here are some of the things that are available on a Roku box, for instance. A lot of them cost money. Some are free. There are hundreds and if not thousands of channels that are available on Roku. And again, some of them are free, but some of them are $5 a month, $10 a month. But if you start getting a lot of them, you can add those up really quick. And so be careful what you're doing and bear that in mind. There are movie channels that are strictly Westerns. There's another one that's strictly comedies. And these are all, sound reasonable, $5 a month. But, you start doing 5 of those, that's $25 a month. If you're into sports, it costs you money, big time money. NBA, $200 a year, or one team, $120. That's the basketball for those that don't know. The hockey league, $139, $140 a year, so much a month, or so. For single team, $112. MLS, which is the I'm sorry? Soccer, that's right. Yep, it just was one of those senior moments. $75 a year. Fubo is $10 a month, which Fubo is geared towards sports more.
How about football?
Okay, I'm going to get to that. I guess I didn't put it in the right place. But you can also get news stations, and I learned how to do an animated GIF. So that's the only reason that's there. How to watch NFL games online without a cable. Here's an article. Here's a link to it. There's so many different ways to do it. I said, I can't, and the article it just went on. And so I said, well, I'm not going to put together a chart because I just found this in the last couple of days. But you can go to this website and get some information on it. But basically, whether you're joining the cord-cutting revolution, have a fantasy football dynasty, or you live outside your team's market, you need a good way to get your NFL fix online. Unfortunately, the options are many, and they're also extremely complicated. To help, we've compiled a comprehensive guide on how to stream the entire 2018-19 season from opening kickoff to the playoffs. So if you go to that link, you'll get some links to get more information on it. So put on your jersey, find a comfortable spot to block kick, and here's your digital ticket to the NFL, and then you go to that site. If you want some news on Roku, various channels, some are free, some you have to subscribe. Most of them, they aren't live, but if you go to, for those of you in Orlando, you can go to the WFTV, have the Roku channel for it, and you can go and look at the 6 o'clock weather report or the 6 o'clock news at 9 o'clock. It's like a DVR for just that news station. And so you can go and look at what they've already presented. And in those cases, it's free. Same thing with the ABC News, CBS News. Most of them, you go back and you can either look at certain articles or you can look at a whole newscast. And those are available as channels on Roku. Now, there's some other choices besides all the things I've just talked about. Oh, no, this was enough, Huey. That confused me enough. Well, we're going to throw some more at you. Plex. Plex allows you to be your own service. If you bought or rented, not rented, but you purchased and downloaded a lot of TV programs and music, and you have all of these things scattered, you can create your own server and use Plex as the service and use Plex. I'm not totally understanding how it all works, but if you have a lot of your own material, you can use Plex, and it's not free, and you don't just have, I think it's a service, but it accesses your hard drive or your other computer that's using as a media center. Now, if you go to flea markets, art shows where they have the street markets of any kind, a lot of times you're going to find a lot of the what they call a Kodi box. They're not really a Kodi box. Kodi is a free open source software that allows streamers to use. And what's happening is a lot of streamers from out of the country are using the service, and this is what Kodi looks like on your TV box. But when you click on Kodi Media Center, you end up getting something like this. You can have movies, TV shows, My Library, and so on. And what you end up with is movies that are still in the theaters or just out of the theaters. You'll find TV shows that were on last night without the ads in them. And you can go and watch a whole series, season 1, season 2, season 19 of some of these series, and watch each one for nothing. Just have the box. Is it legal? Not really, because they're streaming it. They're claiming that it's there because you don't download it, you're not breaking the law. But they're cracking down on these streamers in Europe because most of them come from Europe. They're cracking down on them, and probably you as the end user aren't going to have a lot of problems unless the internet service providers decide to crack down and say you're using too much bandwidth. They check to see what it is. If they see it as this, then they may tell you to stop using it. The boxes run fully loaded. They run about $250 to $300 I've seen in some of the flea markets. But it allows you to see the latest movies, any movie, as well as all of the old movies. And however, some of them are not HD, some are not SD, some are taken with a camera and the audience with subtitles in Chinese. So you don't always get, and sometimes they buffer, and you'll watch 2 or 3 seconds and then it'll buffer, and then you'll watch a minute or two and it buffers and you can't really watch it. So then you look at one of the other 20 or 30 sources that is out there and try to get it. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I just want you to know that it's available. It's probably not legal. You got to spend a lot of money. You can buy the boxes for about $25. Put Kodi on it yourself, and then if you go out to YouTube, you can find all kinds of ways that'll people that have free channels out there on YouTube that tell you how to populate those boxes for free and make this happen as well. But I did want you aware that this could be available as well. Okay, getting back to the legalities and the legal stuff, these are some of the services. This one does have the Verizon Fios. They have DSL, fiber optic, AT&T, and what they have, Xfinity, Hughes Network. So these are some of the major internet service providers that may or may not be in your area. Now, there's also an issue that I think somebody mentioned, and I didn't really make a comment about it, but you may be in a community that you can only use a particular service provider. You may be in a condo association that provides you with a particular company, and you can get the add-ons, but they give you the basic service. And to bring in somebody else, they may or may not let you do that. So sometimes your choices get very limited only because of where you live or the association that you belong to. So make sure you check that out as well. Again, you have to select your TV service provider. Now, the people in Orlando that are listening, or that are seeing this presentation, and some of you that are out on the web may have broadband with no problem. But there are parts of the country that don't get broadband. The map that you see in this article, where it's white, they have less than 33% of the population have broadband available to them. The lighter green gets about 33 to 65% of the population, and the dark green is 66 to 100% of the population, but 66% have it available. So that there's still people in those areas that don't have broadband available. So 23.4 million Americans in rural communities lack broadband internet access. Yeah, granted, it's still about 99% of Americans do have broadband access. It still leaves an awful lot of people without it. Microsoft has something they call the Airband Initiative. They've partnered with Network Business Systems with a plan to eliminate the rural broadband gap over a 5-year span. Last month, the two companies announced their partnership in an effort to bring internet service to around 126,700 residents in rural communities throughout Iowa, Illinois, and South Dakota. So they're trying to make available broadband in some of these rural areas. Another thing that I don't mention in this presentation, but I know there's been some discussions with the in CFCS about 5G that's coming for telephone, and the fact that it's fast enough to be able to stream internet over it as well. And so it's going to provide in those areas where that end up with 5G, you're going to be able to get internet access and streaming quite inexpensively, hopefully, and very fast soon, within the next couple of years. Hang on while I clear my... Okay, so now here's a slide too that, God, if you've got your cell phone and it takes pictures, you might want to take a picture of this. The number of devices and what usage. So what do you need for speed if you're going to stream, or what do you need in general to do the things you do? Okay, light use is emails, web browsing, social media, SD video streaming. Moderate use is music streaming, occasional online gaming, streaming HD video on 1 or 2 devices. High use, and then very high use. I don't have to read these to you. And then the chart tells you what speed you should plan on getting. So if you're in the 4 to 8 devices, that includes your phones, your iPads, and your TVs, and maybe your and you also have an Echo and so on. You might want to think in terms of what you're using for light use, moderate use, high use, and so on, what speeds you truly need. So a lot of us think you really need 150 megabits, and that's really, I have overkill, but the biggest thing I need it for is like doing these kind of presentations and so on, I like to have the fast speed because other things are going on my computer in the background, and I really want to have the that ability without degrading. Okay, I'm looking back over the notes here. Mike had said Skylink looks like a come on for just a standard HD antenna. That's what I was kind of afraid. And we'll have to take a look at that. And then Mike, also, if you use Cody, to use a VPN so they don't know where you're coming from. Okay. Now, one of the other things to consider, some of you with your cable service have your phone going through your cable, and it shows that you got a phone call on your TV, but you've got what's called a voice over internet protocol. You get your TV from your cable company. And if you do, there's some ways around it when you ditch the cable company and only get internet access. There are some services out there. Vontage was one that I used for several years. And the only reason I gave it up, it was about $20 a month. I think it's $30 now. But I had everything I wanted cheaper. But I had no problems with it. I was very happy with it. Some of you use Ring Central, and these are some of the other ones that are available out there as VoIP or voice over internet. And then for businesses, there's various ones that are available as well. I'm not going to go into those. But something that's free out there is Google Voice. I use Google Voice, have been using it for years. I have several Google Voice numbers, but I use one as my home number. And along with that, I have paired it with an Obi High box, or an Obi, they call it an Obi box. It works with Google Voice. This is what it looks like. You'll see at the top, it says, I purchased this item September 1st, 2015. I think I've come to the conclusion that it works, and I'm still using it. What it is, it has some software, and you run the software on your computer. This has a plug that goes to your network, and another that goes to the phone, and it also has a power cord. And then once you set it up and connect it to your computer with the software that they provide, you then connect it with your Google Voice phone number, and it handles it all from there on. And long as it's connected to your router, your computer doesn't have to be on. You don't have to be on Google. You don't have to be on. It just works. And my phone rings, but I have a phone plugged into it, and I'm going to see. I don't know if I have the back of this. I have the back of another one, but it does have a plug that goes directly to the phone. So the phone rings and I can pick the phone up. And I have the phones that I have a base unit and then some wireless to it. So they all ring and they all work with the Google Voice number. Now, several years ago, I bought a Magic Jack. They used to be advertised on everything all night long, all evening and overnight. And I haven't seen ads for it in a long time. But it's still available. It's cost $35, and you get a year's free service included with that $35. When the Magic Jack first came out, you had to plug it into your computer, into your USB port, run software, and the computer had to be on for it to work. You plugged the phone into it, or you used your headset on your computer to make phone calls. You could do either. Then they came out with the Magic Jack Go. You can connect it to your router, which I do. And so once I set up the software, it doesn't require me to have the TV on, or the computer on at all. It never has to be on because it's using the internet directly. It's set up for my number, and you'll see on the back, you'll see that it's got a bigger plug and a smaller plug. The bigger plug is the one that goes to the network. The smaller one goes to a phone. You don't even have to have it go to a phone. I have it being forwarded to my Google Voice number. So if somebody calls me on my Magic Jack number, it automatically rings my Google Voice number, which is my home phone, and I pick it up.
On your cell phone.
Huh?
On your cell phone, right?
Well, yes and no. I'll get to that in a moment. But I do have, as I said, I have a set of phones here in the house that are connected to my OBI. Now the Magic Jack looks like this up close. You'll see that there's a USB connector on the far end. Well, that comes with a connector that you plug into that plugs into a power cord that you plug into the wall, and that gives you your power. Or you can plug it into a computer for its power as well. But I have it plugged into the wall, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute as well. The Magic Jack is $35 to buy. Stan mentioned that he had the 5-year plan, and I have a 5-year plan. His just expired. Mine is about to. And now they don't have a 5-year plan. The 5-year plan 5 years ago was $99 for 5 years, or $20 a year, not a month, a year. Now it's $89 for 3 years, or it's up to $30 for a whole year. And they also have a software program that with an Android version that I have installed on my Chromebook that is connected to my Google Voice number, that I can actually use my Chromebook to call out using the internet and use it as a phone. So I have this 11-inch phone if I want it to be. There is an Android program that you can actually run and use it as a phone, an extra phone. And I believe iOS has it as well. So you can use it on your iPhone as an extra phone using Wi-Fi, an extra phone number. Now, the question you asked, Stan, was when it rings, does it ring my phone? And you said my cell phone. Well, my particular cell phone, or my particular home phones, and I'm not sure if this Panasonic one did or not, but the set that I have has Bluetooth. And so when I'm in the house and I have Bluetooth on my cell phone, and someone calls my home phone number, my cell phone will also ring. And I can answer it and use it as well. Now, one thing you have to remember about all of this equipment that we've been talking about, they all plug into a power source. I hope you have a lot of plugs, a lot of extension cords. And Robin says our bedroom looks like the airport runway because they all have little LED indicator lights. So be prepared that you got to plug all this stuff in, and it's all going to have some kind of indicator light or lights that either flash or don't flash, but have some kind of light on them as well. So there's lots to it.
Huey, I got to interrupt. You just said a very crucial phrase. One thing you got to remember. You got a million things you got to remember. So if you start having failing memory, as many people of our age do, you're not even going to remember how to get to your Evernote to look up whatever the hell it is you think you used to have something that rang my phone, and now I don't know how it works.
Well, that's why I'm recording this presentation.
But what's
so
so scary is everything that they keep saying it can be extremely complicated, and I don't think it's getting better. I think my choices and what I have right now has gotten too expensive. But I think I have equivalent of 6 independent channels. My DVRs can record 5 programs while I'm watching a 6th one. My only problem is I don't have enough space on it, but it's 500 hours, not 125 that was on a couple of the DVRs that you had a bit. So I don't think it's getting better. I think it's getting just so much more complicated.
Dick made a good point in the chat box. Says you may want to be sure that you count all the devices that use your internet, your phone, your tablet, computer, spouses and children's devices. You may be surprised how many there are. I just bought another device for my lights, so Wemo electrical connector that when I use my Amazon Echo, I now can turn off the light in the bedroom, the living room, and the lanai simply by telling that girl that sits in that little Amazon Echo to turn on a particular light, it turns on the lights in that room. So it's kind of like a clap on, clap off by using your voice. And so those are 3 devices that are on the internet that are using an IP address. So yeah, you've got to look at things, and plus the Amazon Echo itself. The Roku box is using Wi-Fi, and I got 2 Roku boxes, so that's two more devices that are using my internet. So these are things that you've got to bear in mind with all of what you do and what you amount of service and everything. Security systems, Dick said too. A lot of them now are using the internet.
Yep.
So here are some of the resources I used. Cordcutting.com, cordcutters.com, on Reddit, cord cutters, over the air, another one at Reddit, AFTV, which is Amazon Fire TV news, strictly for the Amazon Fire TV devices. Another one called Cord Killers. They have a podcast that's great. It's on at least every week. And that's all they talk about is the kind of stuff that I've been talking about and the latest in changes and devices and all the things that are going on. So this information is very fluid. As I put this presentation together, topics, services, and hardware changed almost daily. This presentation is meant to help you understand the big picture of cutting the cord. The specifics may no longer be accurate, but I've given you a place to start your research as to the best solution for your TV choices. Don't forget the survey. Please remember to fill it out online. You can wait till you get home. Don't do it while you're driving. And then use the link, and there's the link on the questions slide. And do we have any?
Questions? Stephen?
Oh, is he gonna have this on his website, like his,
This will be on your website, will it not, Huey?
Yes, I will save the recording and post it as quickly as I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Tom? Yes. Go.
Okay. All right. You earlier mentioned Frontier, and somebody was asking whether Frontier was available in this area. So I looked it up. I found out that they have an office in Oviedo, and I checked my zip code, and they claim that they have service for me. Their price is $12 a month for internet for 12
months?
2-year price guarantee. Free Echo if you sign up, and I think they have a gift card.
Yeah, but that $12 internet service is probably for a low speed, and if you want a higher speed, then you got to pay extra.
Well,
it's still that's what, the deal that I got was for 1 year, and then it took some doing, but I finally got to somebody who would tell me how much it would be normally. It's normally $80,
right,
for what I have. So at the end of the year, it'll go to 80. Well, at the end of the year, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I'm going to fire you. And okay, Spectrum, how much for just internet for a new user? And they're going to have a deal for me. And it may be in that same price range.
I did call about the Spectrum deal that you had on the screen. They have that deal where you can pick 10 channels for $24 a month, I think it was. I saw that same ad and I called them and they said, that's only for new users and it's a temporary price. So if I already have Spectrum, which I do, they won't give it. My Spectrum bill is, well, I have cable and internet. It's like $200 a month.
Yeah, mine's 202.
But to finish up what I was saying about Frontier, they have 4 prices online. That didn't include taxes. So somebody said in the note that taxes would bring it up another 30% or something. But anyway, it was $20 for 20 megabytes. Is it megabytes a second? I forget.
Well,
Yeah.
Mike Underman is saying that the maximum is 18 megabytes per second, which is pretty slow,
Okay. And they had
depending on the
40
number of devices.
And they also had a $40 2-year guarantee for 40 megabytes. And I think they had a $60 one for 60 guaranteed. So it's apparently the number.
I mentioned something.
Sure.
I get Spectrum. I get everything through telephone.
Whoever's talking, we can't hear. So
Yeah, Howard is saying he has Spectrum, includes everything with 2 telephones,
I have 2 telephones. I have 100 meg,
100 meg,
TV,
TV,
$88.
$88 a month.
wow.
Here's what I told them. The bill, when they called me or they sent me a bill.
We can't hear them.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
He's saying that if at one point they sent him a bill for $200 a month.
Something. I said, forget about it. I have ads. I'm going elsewhere. They said, wait one moment.
I can't hear him again.
He's talking about retention departments.
Right,
And
well, they
Yeah.
finally got in, and in order to keep me, that's what they did.
he's saying they kept him, but Howard, you were very lucky, I think, because I know a number of other people who've not had that good result.
If you actually
No,
can't-
they have threatened and people have been told.
I got it, I had no problem. Took a half an hour.
I tried the threatening for both mine and my wife's, and in both cases, they said, we will only do that if you cancel our service for 3 months, yeah, a minimum of 3 months.
They
And
told me that.
then they will send you a card saying they'll give you a new offer as a new customer.
They will call you back in less than a week. They don't want to lose you. You are cash flow.
You're saying that as if it's an absolute fact, and I'm disagreeing with you
Okay.
completely.
Okay, let's not argue about it, folks. We got people online and we're recording this, but let's summarize it by saying that some of us can get lucky and some aren't by the retention department. I tried it with mine, and that you saw the letter I got. They gave me $176, which really wasn't. It was still an increase over what I had, and with the taxes, it was almost $35 more a month than what I had been paying when my last retention special ended. So it varies by people, by their quotas and so on, I'm sure, and by what they're told that they can do. So the best thing to do, and I'm lucky in my area, at the end I can say Fios, Frontier, I'm no longer going to use you. I'm going to go to Spectrum, and I'd be a new user for Spectrum. I can do it for 3 or 4 months and then go back to Frontier and get their special again. And that's what I may end up doing, is every few months switching back and forth to get the lowest price. But you got to be willing to do that. And sometimes you got to put it out on the line, and sometimes, and I've had some people say, I called them and said, I'm going to leave you if you can't give me a better deal. Says, I'm sorry, sir. I guess you're going to have to leave. I can't give you a better deal. And that's basically what they said to me when I said 176 is not good enough. I need to go ahead and cancel. They said, okay, sir. I'll give you the person to do that, and they did. So
You used the phrase, it's very fluid, everything is changing quickly. I used to be extremely successful arguing with retention departments, and what CenturyLink has told me essentially was you were getting promotional rates. You're not offering them anymore, and therefore we're raising the price. And I threatened to go away, and they said go away. So
yep.
There's a page with 8 different phone numbers that I saw. Contact all these people. It's just a lot of work to try to duplicate what I'm happy with now. And that's what's frustrating.
Yep.
But you do a fantastic job. A lot of work you put
Thank
into
you
this for
so
sure.
much.
Okay, don't forget, please fill out the survey. It means an awful lot to me. If I didn't answer your questions or there's some questions that I need to answer in this presentation, please add them. I'll be doing this presentation for the APCUG
As
quarterly virtual conference on November 10th, and I'd like to make sure that I include any changes in it that need to be. So please, any suggestions or anything like that, please do so. And on that note, I'm going to stop the recording, but I would like for you to stay on with me. Stan, hang on.
yes,